Welcome to another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, she didn't slay any dragons when she went into the den last week, but local entrepreneur and Lice Squad founder Dawn Mucci says she learned a few things while in the dragon's den and is gearing up for another go. She has some advice for others thinking about going into or already on their way into the den. Barrie Colts had a banner weekend, 3 wins in 3 nights. Gene Pereira joins us for a look back. We get the conversation started after this. Dawn Mucci had high hopes when she had her chance to try to shake some funding and support from CBC's Dragon's Den panel when she appeared on the show a week ago. She did not come away with any cash, but Dawn, you did come away with some valuable insight and experience.
A wise person once told me, and I think that was you, Dan, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Exactly. So what happened? Where did things, I guess, go off the rails for you, do you think?
I believe things went off the rails when I was asked about my last year's numbers, and then it was everyone was asking me about that, and I think my numbers were based on the current year's numbers. That and a combination of my nerves just threw me off, and I just blanked. I froze, and as you know, going in, I was very nervous to begin with. So I think it was just a combination of nerves and being thrown off track by the evaluation being focused on last year's numbers and not the current numbers.
And it's not like you hadn't done your research before you went in there. I think nerves is probably the key here.
Absolutely, and I did do my research, and I know how critical it is to have your numbers right, and I went through them over and over and over again, but again, I was basing it on the current year's numbers, and the previous years were still kind of post-COVID numbers. You know, we were still building back after going through that pandemic, and so the numbers were a lot higher, and I froze. I really froze, Dan. It was so embarrassing, but you know what? I'm glad I did it. It was an amazing experience. I have no regret. I would do it again, and in fact, I've already applied to go on next year's show to redeem myself.
I was going to ask, is there a time limit on when you can go back?
I don't really know, to be honest. I've seen other people pitch more than once, and honestly, I believe everyone deserves a second chance. You know, we all make mistakes, and I made the critical error of messing up my numbers, and that's my bad, but I'm not one to give up. I'm an entrepreneur. I'll always persist. I'll always keep going for what I'm after. And my dreams are big, and I would like a dragon to come along on the journey.
Yeah, for sure. So was that the biggest criticism you got from the dragons, was your numbers weren't quite what they thought they should be? That
was it. I was told I had a great concept, that I was very positive. There was all good feedback, which I've taken and will definitely work with, but it was the numbers that was the big reason I didn't get offered a deal. Moving
forward, you're going to try again. You're going to take your own best advice out of this. But what advice do you have for somebody who maybe has never been there before, has been thinking about it? I'm sure you would urge them to go ahead and do it, but you've got some pretty good advice to hand out.
I would say just go for it. Perfection's the enemy of done. Don't wait. Don't wait for things to be perfect. Don't wait for, everything to align. Take the opportunity if you get it and go for it, because it's hard to get on the show in the first place. That in itself is a big win if you get selected. And go in there and just be yourself. And just share your story. Don't get caught up in the nerves or in any of the distractions that might happen. You film for a good hour to get 6 minutes of TV, so use that time and be in the moment and never let fear hold you back.
I'm sure it's very intimidating. Number one, TV cameras, TV lights, and then you've got these people who have lots of money to hand out, and you're trying to entice them into what you're doing.
It is very intimidating. Those dragons have been there and done that. They've seen it all. It's 20 years of the show, most of them, but especially Arlene have been doing it for such a long time. And, they do grill you, and you do need to know your numbers. You need to have a good story to tell, and you need to be confident. And I would just say, if you have the opportunity, take it. It's a great show. It's a great opportunity. And if anything, at the end of the day, if you don't get a deal, you got some amazing exposure and some great advice that you can take back to improve yourself as a business owner and human being.
For those listening who didn't see the show, what is it you were going in after? What was your ask, and what was the reaction from each of the dragons? Were any of them close to maybe saying, yeah, I want to jump on board with you?
I almost thought I had something after I sang the jingle. I thought for sure Brian or Michelle were going to see the value in me as an entrepreneur and the opportunity that was there. And even though I had my numbers messed up, I wasn't asking for a lot of money. I was only asking for $150,000 for 5%. But my real hope in going on the Dragon's Den was to get some great advice and mentorship, and potentially to get a dragon on board to come in and look at my business from a different set of eyes, and perhaps help me propel it and take it further than I've been able to take it. You know, I've done this for over 2 decades, and I've taken it as far as I can, and I know there's so much more potential to be realized, and I really wanted that mentorship to help me get to that next level.
The exposure can't have hurt you, though.
Well, let's hope it did not hurt me, and in fact, I'm hoping that somebody that watched the show might see the value in what we're doing for community and for other families, and want to be part of that story and part of the journey, and reach out and potentially want to invest, and who knows where things will go. I'm just grateful that I had the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to what's to come.
If somebody has been humming and hawing about trying to get on the Dragon's Den, would you be open to having them give you a call for some advice?
I definitely would love to give advice on coming on the Den. Since I've done it now, I can kind of understand where they are, and what I can help them to see what to expect. And again, like I said, I'm going to try and go back on for a second chance. And I hope that I can have that opportunity.
All right, we'll look forward to the second round then.
I hope so. You never know.
Keep your fingers crossed. We're in your corner.
Thank you, Dan. I so appreciate it.
Thank you, Dawn. Some new faces in the lineup. 3 wins in 3 nights last weekend. The Barrie Colts with a tight grip on first place in the OHL Central Division and just 5 points shy of top spot in the Eastern Conference. Colts analyst Gene Pereira joins Barrie 360's Julius Hearn for an update.
All right, Gene, it seems like every time we do one of these weekly kind of Colts roundups on the podcast, it seems like the storylines, the Colts are hot, but we're coming off the trade deadline. There's new faces in the Colts lineup. Parker Von Richter, Mason Zabeski, Ben Wilmot. We saw them in action in Colts uniforms for the first time this weekend. What'd you think of them?
Yeah, certainly a good start. And, I think all 3 pieces contributing early on. And, Parker Von Richter, they get a defenseman that's going to be able to log a lot of minutes. And, again, another guy that kind of fits into any role you want him, whether it's penalty kill, he can play the power play, defending a lead, when you're behind. So they get a guy that can play major minutes up front. They add some scoring and grit in both Zabeski and Wilmot. And, this is a team that's, when you talk to Dylan Sloskowitz, is looking for that identity of being tough to play against. And they address that even further here with the addition of 2 big kind of power forward types, and Wilmot off to a great start scoring in each game.
Yeah, plus Von Richter and Zabeski, 1 assist each. A bit of a slower start. They get to play their former team right away. Don't see that all that often. What were the emotions like for them on Saturday night?
Yeah, I think it's always, a bit weird, and, especially, so quick after. And, I was kind of kidding with Parker Von Richter that, even though that they, a few hours before that, they were members of the Brampton Steelheads, and they get there on the ice, and you wouldn't think it by the way the physical game that they played, and but it's the old thing that you get on the ice, there's the friendships are gone and that type of thing. But they met after the game, but I think there's no doubt that facing their old team, they wanted to win. You could tell Zabeski was hitting everything in sight, and they got in the win, and it's something they can't overlook. Even though Brampton is in a complete rebuild, for Barrie, they got bigger things in plan.
We talked about the trades for those 2 players last week, but we haven't talked about Ben Wilmot yet because that was made a Wednesday or Thursday or so last week. How did that kind of trade come to be with the London Knights?
Well, talking to Marty Williamson, he said he's a player that they certainly were looking for a while, and they did a great job of kind of keeping that under wraps. And when they looked at players they can add, that Wilmot's name came up. There was a lot of idea that maybe Kieran Walt would be a guy, obviously in Sudbury, looking to rebuild a scorer. But in Wilmot, they feel to get a guy that plays a 200-foot game that can kind of, provide defensively a little bit more physical, even though he's not as big. And he provides some offense. He was right up there in scoring with his London Knights team, and he fit right in. Talking to Marty Williamson, he said they were going to play him on the left side with Bowden and Hemming, and Wilmot showed up before that first game, just hours. I hadn't met the team, and just asking him about the excitement of getting here and being able to play with two World Junior players in Bowden and Hemming, and he said that's a pretty good. You get to your new team and you're able to play with them, but Wilmot's again going to provide some offense and and as well again just a guy that can play it both ways. And it's something that Barrie made a point of here at the deadline, is adding guys that aren't just offense, but they can play defensively, and as well they can provide a bit of physicality.
Yeah, and obviously that kind of the defensive effort's really shown over the last weekend, because now the team's got points in 7 straight. But you mentioned those World Junior guys, all the new faces coming back to this Colts lineup. So those 3 players that are at the World Juniors, Cole Baudouin, Keishon Aitchison, Emil Hemming, along with these 3 newly acquired players, how hard was it, do you think, to kind of fit everyone in with that 3-and-3 stretch?
Yeah, I think, the fact that, Von Richter and Zabeski got in a few practices, and, look, there's always a bit of an adjustment period, new line combinations, figuring in what the systems are. So I think that's going to take a little bit, but sometimes, I think the process, just stepping in and playing, and, especially the couple of games on the road, it kind of being around the team kind of gets them to kind of develop, that friendship and so on. A lot of these guys know each other from playing against one another, but I think the idea that they were able to kind of step in right away and play 3 games in 3 nights, it was just like go, go, go. But there's no doubt they'll get some time to work the practice. It'll take a little bit of time, but I think with practice here, it's a pretty good start for these guys. They're anxious to kind of show that they can help the team, and it's opportunity. And for all 3 of them, for Wilmot, you look at that Western Conference where everybody was adding in London. Look to the future, and he comes to a team, excites him, that is looking to make a run. And the same for Zabeski and Von Richter, who are, a Brampton team that had already taken a big hit before the year with the movement of Martone and so on to NCAA hockey. I think they come to a team now that is looking for a playoff run, and for 2 veterans, that's exciting.
I mentioned the World Junior guys, Hemming, Baudouin, Aitchison. I'm sure you had a chance to talk with them. What were their kind of reactions coming back to the Colts after the semifinal loss in Minneapolis and then winning bronze against Finland for Canada, and then Emil Hemming having the heartbreak in the bronze medal game?
I think there's disappointment there, obviously, especially when you're Canadian players that kind of won medal. But look, bronze medal, it's something that they should be proud of, and both really played well. I think they, Cole Baudouin, especially after that first game, was just outstanding. Keishon Aitchison really worked his way into more ice time, and I think that getting that experience is something that's only going to help them play against the elite players in the world. Emil Hemming, obviously, with Finland, going up against Canada, and after last year's silver medal, hoping that they would win gold, but they end up losing to Canada in the bronze medal game. But, again, I think for all 3 coming back, Julia, sometimes you come back from those World Juniors. I've seen it over the years, and you really can't blame the players. It's an intense tournament. There's so much pressure, and then they get back, and I think they need a little bit of time to kind of adjust back to their teams and, kind of just, take a bit of a breather, so to speak. And, for these 3 guys stepping right back in the lineup, and, Dylan Smoskowitz said, I kind of offered, Emil Hemming had the flu, but he didn't want to miss any time. And, Cole Baudouin was right back at it, and he didn't miss a step. The OHL Player of the Week, and he comes right back and is his usual dominant self. And Keishon gets a couple of goals. So I was pretty impressed with that. And I've seen it over the years where, players come back from World Juniors, and it does take a bit of time. And you don't blame them. They just need to kind of catch that collective breath and get back in the OHL. But for these guys, able to step right back in the lineup and play the major roles they did, it's just really impressive. It speaks a lot about their character.
Now, you mentioned those guys not missing a step. Well, the team obviously didn't miss a step because they won all three in that 3-3 stretch impressively. I mentioned earlier points in 7 straight, but the power play just 1 for 7 in the last 3 games. Obviously, the new faces kind of playing a part of that. Some guys still trying to gel with each other in their units. How soon do you see that kind of coming together?
Yeah, I think that's going to come about pretty quick. I mean, all these guys are used to kind of, Zabeski and Von Richter were a big part of the Brampton power play, and Wilmot as well with London. So I think they'll be able to fit in nicely. Things will kind of get worked out with the 2 units. There's going to be some changes, obviously, on those units. And, while these guys were away at World Juniors and before the trade, it was nice to see guys that you don't, often see on the power play. Jaden Newton, I thought, chance to play on the power play. Carlo, these guys got a bit more of an opportunity, and they held their own. And but now with the key additions here, suddenly those 2 units are a lot better. I think Barrie's number 1 power play unit was really well. The second one, actually surprised and done well as well with Solantra and so on. So it's interesting. It's a lot more deep for these power plays, but like you said, it just takes a little bit of time to make an adjustment here, and I think a full week of practice is going to help.
You mentioned Jaden Newton. I did want to touch on him because he seems to be, kind of starting what could be a breakout for him. He had goals in 3 straight games, added on an assist. Maybe the best week so far of his OHL career. How do you see him kind of building on that?
Yeah, Jaden, you look at it and you think, okay, you look at the scoring totals, this is not going to, jump off the page. But this guy, if you watch every one of these goals, they're pretty nice goals. And I think for Jaden, he brings that physical element up front. He's a banger and a crasher. And, I think that offensive talent is there. And I think a lot of it is confidence. You get a couple and you start to sit there and say, okay, maybe I can take this opportunity and drive for it again. He's one of those, so-called great soldiers on the team where, whatever role you need to play on, he's going to play. And I think for Jaden taking this next step, you see it, and it's kind of exciting to watch that offensive element. You think that there's more there, and these last couple of weeks have shown that. And again, that's, these World Junior players, they go away, and it creates new opportunities. And I think, them being away has given us a bigger look at Jaden Newton in terms of offense. And, I think we've all been able to see that a little bit of a breakout and a little bit more confidence. And, yeah, you get the feeling that maybe he has turned the corner in that area.
Yeah, impressive from him just being 18 years old as well, so he's still got a long way to go. Do you want to touch on some other prospect stuff before we get on to kind of looking ahead to this week? Joe Solandra was added on to the OHL Top Prospects game along with Justin Hanser. For a guy like him, he's also had a great season so far. What does that mean for him to kind of be able to showcase that along with his teammate?
For Joe, he's one of those guys that, you watch and it's hard not to be impressed. I mean, he bangs and crashes. He's constantly, he's constantly noticeable out there. I mean, you see the impact, and you just get a feeling that there's so much more there offensively, and it's going to click. And I think eventually it will come. And I think that's one thing NHL scouts have noticed. And the reason why he's at the Top Prospects game is because that I think the idea that there's more offense, I think that will come. But even without that, his game is it's impressive. I mean, he gets out there and a guy, he's not afraid to bang and crash, go into those tough areas of the ice, be it in front of the net, be it in the corners. He has really stood out here over this run, and you got a feeling that there's just more offense and it's going to come. This is a guy that's been able to put the puck in the net in his career, and I think at this level it is going to come. And I think for Justin Hanser, another guy that, you look at him last year and just getting, ice time was tough on that deep lineup last year. And, he played up on the wing some games. But again, he gets an opportunity here. And all of a sudden, Justin Hanser, talking to Marty Williamson, there's a lot of teams at the deadline that when they talk trade with Barrie, one of the young pieces they wanted was Justin Hanser. And I think that speaks volumes of just how far his game has come. And again, his confidence, starting to see a little bit more offense from him as well. And I think that comes with confidence. But overall, Marty Williams has said, look, we didn't want to move Justin. He's going to be a big piece moving forward on the back end. And you look at that blue line, it just looks so much deeper. The development, Cole Emerton, and now Justin Hanser back there. And you got guys like Vader and Armstrong that are just getting really their first full years here in the OHL. So it's exciting. But Justin Hanser, he's one of those guys that you can't help but cheer for. And just seeing him take his game to another level here is just fantastic. And you think that there's more to come from this guy.
So both Salandra and Justin Hanser are included on the NHL Central Scouting rankings from this week that just came out, along with Ben Wilmot for North American skaters. And then both Colts goalies, Ben Hrebeck and Arvin Jaswal, including in the North American goalies rankings. It's tough to know what to make of these Central Scouting rankings. When fans just look at them, they see all these recognizable names, whether it's from World Juniors or their local junior team. When fans see the rankings, what should they think about?
Well, I think, anytime you get recognized by NHL scouts, it says something about your game. But look, obviously there are 7 rounds, there are a lot of players, and I think we saw last year with a real surprise that, all the scouts that I talked to, NHL scouts, they really thought Ben Hrebeck was going to go, and, he ends up getting passed over. And I don't think that really, talks about Hrebeck's game. I think they're just, teams get, we have 7 rounds, and you may not have all your picks, and you got to address certain needs. But again, for these guys, look, it says that they're watching you scouts, and those are the midterm rankings, and they're all moving up, which is an exciting part. Some of them are getting onto the list for the first time, and so it's starting to get noticed. And here's a chance here with a strong second half that they can move up. And again, look, there's a lot of these later picks end up being really well, especially the goaltenders. And I think Ben Hrebeck is just, I think Barrie fans can see, you can make the argument that he's the top goaltender in the Ontario Hockey League. And, Arvin Jaswal, again, another kid who's just on the list is big and just impressive. He came back from that injury the first game in Sudbury. I think he struggled a bit, but ever since then, he's just been fantastic. And, it really speaks volumes about, how good this team is defensively. They face the most shots, and yet here they are, one of the top teams with the fewest goals against. And, a big part of that is Ben Hrebeck and Arvin Jaswal.
Yeah, I remember talking to you just after the draft, and we were talking about how surprised we were as well of that Hrebeck got passed over, but to see him still getting that recognition is still very nice to see. The 3 games coming up this weekend. We'll start Thursday. Flint is in town, the Firebirds, and then the Colts are again home to Oshawa on Saturday, then at Owen Sound on Sunday. I want to talk about Flint for sure because they haven't played the Firebirds yet this year, and it was a team that was really kind of loading up ahead of the trade deadline. They get a piece like Kevin He and then Jacob Battaglia from the Kingston Frontenacs. What do you make of the Firebirds, and how strong of an opponent is going to be on Thursday night?
Yeah, they just rocketed to the top of those Western Conference standings, and this is a very good hockey club. But these are the games you love to see, right? Especially after the deadline. And make no mistake, for both of these teams, they want to make a statement here and show that they're the better team and among the best in the Ontario Hockey League. So I think it's going to be a great game on Thursday night. And the fact they haven't faced each other all year, and now you're kind of loaded up at the deadline here. It's just going to be I think one of these games. The exciting thing is they'll be back in Flint in a couple of weeks hereafter. So they're going to face each other over a short period. But, these games are a bit of a statement game, make no mistake. And it'll be exciting to see this really good really good Flint team. And, the opportunity to add hasn't come often. It's, Western Conference is always tough, but it's wide open, and Flint's certainly one of the contenders there.
Yeah, and so is Owen Sound, again, a team that the Colts have struggled with at times, especially early on this year. That's a road game on Sunday, and then a team. But yeah, should be another really strong 4-8 stretch for this Barrie team. Gene, I really appreciate your time again this week.
Thanks, Julius.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Julius for his input, to Matt Ladder for his technical touch, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Blue Sky and X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcast available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.